Hey, what's up, family? This is Marseille, aka the Property Pastor, here with Kingdom Legacy Builders, where our mission is to help everyday people like you and me to build a lasting legacy for their children and their children's children through real estate investing and wealth building principles. Hey, Proverbs 13:22, it says that a good man or a good woman leaves an inheritance for their children's children. And if you've tuned in today to today's video, I want to thank you. I want to welcome you to our channel. If this is your very first time here, you're gonna gain practical knowledge. You're gonna get spiritual encouragement. You're gonna get hands-on information so that you can apply it to your station in life. If you're looking to build a real estate portfolio, if you're looking to build wealth, you've come to the right place. So before we get started, I want to ask you to make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you share this video. If you got questions, you got comments, make sure you drop them into the comment section. We check the channel constantly. We're dropping brand new content every single week to help you on your journey. So today we're talking all about some rule of thumb calculations to help you to understand what the cash flow on a real estate property is. So if you're looking at a rental, right, we're in our current series is all about how do you buy your first rental property in the next 12 months. One of the key features is that we have to learn how to calculate the cash flow, right? If a property doesn't cash flow, it's not going to make you any money, right? It's actually going to become something of a money pit. It's going to become a big source of stress for you. So I want to show you very easily how you can know whether or not a property is going to cash flow or not. Now, I've got a book here that I've been studying, since I started in my journey. And the title of it is What Every Real Estate Investor Needs to Know About Cash Flow and 36 Other Key Financial Measures. Now, it's a lot of stuff in this book, y'all, and you don't have time to read it. I'm your virtual mentor. I'm going to show you in about 30 seconds or less how you can understand how to know the cash flow on a property without having to read this book. Now, if you want to read this book, that's fantastic. It's a great book. I learned a ton from it. I highly recommend it. But if you don't have time for all that, we're going to get this out of here, right? So let's go ahead and get started. So how do you actually calculate the cash flow on a property? How do you know whether or not that deal is worth your time to look at it? So I'm going to give you two key measures that you can calculate, maybe even in your head if you get good at it, right? If you can do basic addition and subtraction, you can understand how to do these two tools. The first one is the 50% rule, right? So the 50% rule, you need a few pieces of information in order to calculate cash flow. And then the second tool we're going to go over is the 1% rule or the 2% rule, right? And you need even less information to go over those. But these two tools will allow you to understand whether or not you should even go and look at a property, right? You can find this information, pretty easily. So let's start with the 50% rule. So to use the 50% rule, you only need a few pieces of information. One thing you need with the 50% rule is the amount of income that the property is going to generate. So really that's just a monthly rental amount. So if you know the monthly rental amount, right, and there's another piece of information you need, and that's going to be your monthly mortgage payment, principal and interest only. You don't need to know the taxes. You don't need to know the insurance quite yet, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the monthly income or the rent, and we are going to estimate the expenses using the 50% rule. Right. So once we know the income, let's say, for example, in our scenario, we know the rent's going to be $1,200 a month. So we're going to take the income, take 50% of it. That's going to estimate our expenses. Now, once we know the expenses, we just add the expenses to the mortgage payment. That tells us what our total expenses are. And then we can calculate cash flow. So cash flow is quite simply, basically, your income minus your expenses. Okay. So let's use a real world example. Let's say our property is going to generate for us $1,200 a month in rental income. And then we know from that same property that the estimated mortgage payment is going to be about $400 a month. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the rental income, the $1,200 a month. We're going to divide that by 2, multiply by 50%, same thing, right? We're going to divide 1,200 by 2, and that's going to be $600. Okay. So we already know our mortgage payment, principal and interest only, is going to be $400. So that means our total expenses going out are going to be our estimate of expenses, $600, and then our mortgage payment, $400, which gives us $1,000 total. So then we go back and we take our $1,200 that we have coming in, we subtract our $1,000 going out, and now we know that our property is going to cash flow about $200 a month. Now, if you want to make $300 a month, then this property is not worth your time. right? If you know, for example, you want to make 300, 4 or 5, this property is not worth your time to look at. So really quickly on the back of a paper or on the back of a napkin, you figured out whether or not you should even go and try to view this property, if you should try to, analyze it, right? Whether or not to waste your time or not with it. Now, let's say, for example, that same property could make $1,400 a month. And my goal is $300, right? So at $1,400, I'm going to estimate, I'm going to take 50% of the $1,400 is going to give me $700. Now, if I've got that same $400 a month mortgage payment, same property, it's just making more money in income, I'm going to say $1,400, right? Minus the $700 for expenses, and then minus the other $400 for the mortgage payment, principal and interest only. That's going to be $1,400 minus a total of $1,100. Now I'm meeting my criteria of $300 a month. This property may be worth looking at more. Okay, so that's a really quick way to to calculate how much cash flow you're going to get, or to estimate it. Now, I would never buy a property based on that alone, right? I'm going to go through and do my diligence, get quotes for insurance, right? Get estimates of any utilities, understand what the property taxes are, all the different things that go into the expenses of a property, right? And really do my due diligence before I actually put an offer in. But very quickly, the 50% rule can tell you whether or not you even need to waste your time with it. An even shorter estimate is the 1% rule and the 2% rule. Now, these two are calculated exactly the same. They're just the math is just a little bit different on them. Now, the only thing that you need in order to calculate the 1% rule, right, is the purchase price of the property. And then you need the estimated rent amount. So that's the income. So if you know the purchase price and the monthly income, you can calculate the 1% rule. All the 1% rule is just a ratio of the monthly rent divided by the purchase price. What this tells you is whether or not this property will cash flow positively, right? It doesn't tell you exactly what it'll cash flow at, but it'll tell you what it'll cash flow positively. So you can calculate this with less information and even faster than the 50% rule. It's not going to be specific, but it will tell you whether or not you should waste your time. So the way we do it, let's say, for example, I've got a property that, it's going to generate $1,000 a month in income. And that same property, the purchase price is $100,000. So the easy math of it is if I take the $1,000, divide that by the $100,000 purchase price, that ratio is 1%. So that's telling me that typically I can compare this property to other properties. And if another property is only at 0.7%, same price, this property is at 1%, then the 1% property is a better deal, right? It's a better investment to look at. Now, the 2% rule just basically says, hey, if I'm making $2,000 a month on the same $100,000 property, is past the 2% rule. Now, just depending on your threshold in your market, that tells you whether or not you should look at a certain deal or not. So for me, in my market, I don't really see a lot of 2% rule deals. But if I want to quickly look at something, it's only at a 0.8 ratio really quickly, I know right off the back, I'm not even going to waste my time with that deal. So as you're starting out in investing, right, you want to get a lot of practice at this. You want to just go on Zillow, right, and look at houses. You want to say, okay, this house, I'd like to buy it. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it costs $150,000. Similar houses that are around it, they may be renting, for $1,300, $1,400, $900, whatever. Just start calculating those numbers, right? Understand where they fall in the overall range, and then you can say to your agent, I want to look at that one, or they may be sending you things and you say, well, I don't really want to look at that one over there, right? Because time is important. If you have a W-2 job, right, you're working all day, you don't want to go and visit every single house that's not going to meet your criteria. So if right, my property, I want to make $300 a month in cash flow, I can very quickly use the 50% rule to tell me whether or not this property even has a chance or not, whether it's worth me jumping in my car, driving down and taking a look at it, right? So these are just some really quick calculations that you can use to help you in your journey. If you're not a math whiz, right, you don't have a million spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff, these are things that you can jump into really quickly to start evaluating and assessing properties. Hey, I hope this has been valuable to you. If it has, make sure you like the video. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel. We're dropping 2 new videos every single week to help everybody out there to create a lasting legacy. I'm your virtual mentor. Make sure you drop your questions. Make sure you drop your comments. We will be digging into all those calculations. A lot of those calculations I showed in that book earlier. We're going to dig into them in a lot more detail. But to get you started, I wanted to give you some basic rule of thumb calculations that you could use to help you in your journey. Remember, like and subscribe to the channel. Share it with somebody who needs to hear it, somebody who needs to see it. God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Can't wait to talk to you again soon. Take care.